small class. I don't have to stand on formality too much though. Or I don't begin. It's time to get started for today at least. Let's. So we have 3 students enrolled, 2 here so far. Mike for third, sometimes people have drop. Hey, come on in. Oh, we just got started like 2 seconds. Haven't missed anything. All right. Welcome to class. I'm Dr. Logan Park. Your traveling companion for the semester. The whole point of this class is just to scaffold all the basic hygiene of being professional research. So whether or not your master's or PhD is taking you towards a science and research career, and you need a degree to be a practitioner instead. At least for the next year, 2, 3, 4, depending on master's or PhD, is going to be working pretty hard on science. So that's what we're here for. But we'll customize this class pretty closely to what each of the 3 people need. Because it's such a small class, we can be very interactive about that. I think is a good thing. So it takes a minute to customize, but from there, we'll have a bunch of template files to help you guys navigate for some of the daunting tasks of writing a document, master's, PhD. So, we'll get into all of that stuff, a lot of stuff. I'm going to just go around and introduce ourselves. We'll start and our jump off point for the customization part. So, again, I'm Dr. Logan Park. My degree is in recreation ecology, which is a specific subdiscipline of forestry that blends human ecology and behavior with ecosystem dynamics and in particular impacts of management. I work a lot with national parks, national forests, other recreation spaces where the ecosystem and human presence create very difficult, inexpensive opportunities for excellence in both recreation management and ecosystem preservation. Tell us who you are, maybe what your undergrad background is, how far along you are, master's or PhD, you want to sign for us. So where are you coming from?
I'm Ryan Stanley, graduated with a bachelor's degree in conservation biology at the University of West Alabama. And I'm here as a master's student in forestry, specifically human dimensions subdiscipline with Dr. Akamani. And as far as I can tell, what we're going to be researching is what factors go into the farmer's propensity to adopt climate smart agricultural techniques, be they cultural or economic factors, and everything that falls into that umbrella. And I just now started, so this is all new to me. It's encouraging.
How did you work over the summer?
You did, yeah.
Yeah,
I think so.
welcome back.
Thanks.
I'm Laura Pine. I am a master's student in agricultural education. I went to the Lakeland Community College in Springfield and finished my associates. And then I transferred down here for my bachelor's, so I was here 2 years prior to right now. So this will be my 3rd year consecutively. I was offered to come back as a graduate assistant, so I'll be working closely with Dr. Stills and coordinating our play events. I don't know, we've been talking about my thesis project. I think we're kind of leaning towards maybe how AI use in the classroom, or like how to build agricultural literacy in urban classrooms and that kind of thing.
Okay. 2 not small questions. Very cool.
I know.
Well,
My name is Oscar. I have a bachelor's in geography from Illinois State University, and I'm getting my master's in forestry, also under Dr. Akman's program. So I'm excited for that. It's about it. Excited for some outdoor just work. So that's
excellent. Cool. Sounds good. So it sounds like you have 3, maybe more conventions oriented folks and otherwise. Yeah. Cool. So in front of you, we have syllabus and a checklist that I use for my research group. This is going to be mostly the same across research groups. A lot of it's very generic, university-wide, graduate school stuff. And the idea here is just to kind of take or help take some of the overwhelm or sting out of figuring out, like, what should I be doing right now? It's all right here. And went ahead and printed this out for you guys. Everything's going to be on our course website, of course. And we have to update this a little bit every year, so we'll get into that. But the major movements of it, the big shape of it is pretty much standard as the last 20 years. Stuff like applying and so forth. And those are included on this list so that you guys can feel like you already have some momentum. Week 1, day 2 is, still pretty intimidating. So I hope you guys get your rubber soles on the ground and keep the rubber side down. Do that. This is not really an assignment. This is just for information to help catch any blind spots. SIU is a state university, bureaucracy. And so everybody's got all the different departments that you touch across campus. So you're going to have some representation on here. So file that away. You can maybe don't use it in Roman papers, but do whatever you want with it. This is not something. That's done. All right, second, we'll run through the syllabus, the broad strokes of it, and then we'll finish off class today with the detailed outline format. You guys, all 3 masters? Yeah, okay. Has anybody ever written a decent scale document? Over 100 pages? That sounds like a lot. But on the upside, it's double spaced. So you're really only writing half that much. And of that half, typically 50% or more of someone's thesis or dissertation, especially dissertation.
Tables and figures.
Tables and figures, right? So you're not rewriting any of that. It's pretty much exactly just a copy paste and maybe some forced page breaks to make it look readable. But the goal with a big chunk of the class, each chunk of your grade, is getting basically the first 3 chapters of that at least outlined, organized, and have a good sense of where you're going by the end of the semester. Um, so we'll get into that a little bit later. Let's run through the syllabus real fast. Does anybody have any questions or concerns before we jump into this? Since we've done this many times before, late and stuff. Okay, good. Any questions? So we'll be Tuesdays, Thursdays, 15 minutes. If I go long, sometimes I kind of get into it, but you have to get to another class or, very importantly for this class specifically, if you have to be out of the field for field work and you miss this class, you're 3 hours away, like, corresponding and liaising with a bunch of, like they regional offices or, down in the cash for the valley, people, farmers, or, whatever else. You can't be in 2 places at once, and getting those data typically has to take priority because you get the window to do that when you can, and everything else has to be sort of subsequent to that. So what I am trying to do is capture each of our class sessions on basically a Teams video recording meeting, so that if you have to be out in the field, you can either, call in. If you really hate excitement, because watching a class in a Zoom format, like we all went through it with quarantining and stuff like that, not a lot of fun. But those recordings and transcriptions will also be on our course website. Yeah. Also, recently common, maybe not for first semester graduate students, but for a lot of graduate students to have to go to a professional conference to present maybe in progress research or support other members in your research group as they're presenting. A lot of research groups like to roll thick to conferences and make a lot of very important professional connections and stuff like that. So that would be another totally valid reason for this class. They can still face with this. Through that and through the very sort of flexible schedule on the syllabus. So we'll get to that. You can contact me any way that you're comfortable with. Email, catch me in the hallway. We did the summer. My office is down by Akamani's. It's in this very last office cluster down the way. So is the next way over, but sort of down at the end there. Yeah. So I'm going to say start the situation a bit. On 94D is my particular office. Office hours are 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Mondays and Wednesdays as we get ready to teach on Monday afternoons. Or catch me by Zoom, FaceTime, Teams, whatever. A lot of professors are just not around, so I'm not going to be offended if you see me at any other time and like to chat. That's totally fine. I will do my very best to answer emails very quickly. And yeah, if you can, if you're comfortable with it, to prioritize in-person face-to-face meetings with not just me, but like especially your advisor, especially your committee members. If you guys haven't had a chance to form your committee, we're going to want to do that probably for the semester as well. It's a very important thing. There's a lot that can be lost in textual communication, which makes the writing of your thesis proposal all more important because it is purely textual. You have to argue your case only effectively to experts in your field in that meeting. But for getting questions answered, stuff like that, try to, if you can, as students are always very busy at this moment, so try to create space for a quick question about class, or get into a longer conversation about who your committee members might be, or how to get funding to travel to a conference, or any of the million questions that you guys want to need to get answered. A full-on conversation is often more effective ways to do that. We are it's goofy, social, embodied pictures of science communication. All right, so from the catalog, talking about research philosophy, how do we think about doing research? How do we think about thinking metacognition? Approaches to research, qualitative, quantitative, human factors, geographic, social, versus array of other ways of knowing things. The productive Western inductive research cycle is one of many ways to understand reality. And we'll at least touch on some of the others that may be pretty important for coordinating students in a regime of rising AI use and so forth. And talking with people, beings, I feel as your research contacts and subjects, participants, etc. I'll talk about hypothesis inference, deductive approaches, prediction, problem identification can be really important at this time stage of your process. Most graduate students are here for typically 4 semesters plus summers, fall and spring, summer data collection, fall and spring, and early in your final spring semester, you're presenting that thesis because it's got to be presented some weeks before graduation. So that's pretty quick, but that puts the problem identification step, like, what are you here to investigate? Are you here to solve it, or investigate it, or just characterize it, or just discover it? Those are all valid applications of different stages of life cycles for science. So we'll talk more about problem identification in some real detail. Project development and organization. That sounds like it's pretty useful for developing your thesis proposal. Methods of data collection, analysis, and presentation. We'll talk a lot about setting up data collection so that you guys are feeling well equipped to put things into your method section and then enact them, later this fall, early next spring, next summer. So we'll talk a little bit less about analytical procedures. There are a lot of classes that deal with analytical techniques in a lot more detail than we have time for here because we're covering some earlier stage things. But this class is setting up all of the context for before, during, and after everything that your graduate level stats or qualitative research methods classes are going to cover. So for the whole universe, that's the how do we get from A to B very specific technical way. So give space to those classes for doing the analysis chunks of it. And then this class will also deal with certainly a healthy introduction to science and communication. How do you give a proposal seminar? How do you give your ultimate or final defense seminar? How do you communicate your work through your thesis, through scholarly journal article manuscripts, which are very tight distillation of other businesses. So, okay. So that's a lot of stuff. Those are big high-level concepts. This is class that's going to move quickly through a bunch of chunks of that stage or that stage sequence and having a higher level of life cycle, exploratory, descriptive, or explanatory research on the same thing, not the right tool for a situation with a lot of individual. Okay. So that's what these syllabus facts to say from the course catalog. The purpose of this course section describes that in a little bit more detail with one sort of super easy concrete example. This is a presentation of 4 data sets called Anscombe Support Sets. All 4 of these data sets have the exact same summary statistics, average, etc., as a way to help us not have target fixation along the way on some particular research technique. You have to understand the context and have to understand what every analytical technique and every research design buys you and what it doesn't. There's no silver bullet that works for every single project. Okay? So I'll have to say, you don't have to lock yourself into one specific way of doing or any one specific way of knowing. Talk about some of this option where you go. So that lines out our objectives, which is a bit of a ordered checklisty way to frame up what we just talked about. First is an understanding of the philosophy and ethics. About research ethics was all this have to go through the ethical training because knowledge is power. Information is ammunition. They used to say on Saturday morning battle tech cartoon. When knowing is half the battle, what you guys go, Hasbro, so if knowledge is power, then that introduces a moral and an ethical element to professional work as a researcher. That's our professionals, that's our Second objective is a defensible research proposal. So again, that's gonna be scaffolded an introductory review and methods chapters of your proposal. And that detailed outline format is gonna help you not reinvent the wheel. This is a big lift, but it's not fundamentally any different from any of the science lab reports you've ever written before, plus a couple other examples. But, that you have a checklist of your project start to finish, got that document. And for our first assignment is going to be to set up a functional lab notebook. So however you find it's not necessarily the same thing as how you need to capture both data and especially capture the metadata as you are conducting pieces of research. So we want to make sure that your lab notebook, whether it's physical, like writing a brain notebook, or just down to the time of partners, or your durable water resistant coated and IP6 sealed iPhone or Android phone that you're using to capture transcript of qualitative and gets the instruction clearly, or if it's something else entirely. The notes app on your phone and your laptop, whatever that field notebook needs to be, we want to set up explicitly, we want to set up secure, automated, and offsite backups of it. Because there are real human beings inside of these seats and have their laptop back, stolen, or taken by a government like police, the FBI, and distributed to some case of evidence. Talk about how that can happen and what that means and stuff like that. So your data and metadata, without which you cannot complete the pieces, they are brittle. Those hard drives can die, and whatever. So we'll set up just basic hygiene and good researcher habits. Notebook. Then sort of in the middle chunk of the semester, we'll work through your understanding of your methods, strengths, weaknesses, and relationships to other methods. Mention qualitative, quantitative, stuff like that. And finally, we'll end the semester with a 12 to 15 minute conference presentation style PowerPoint slide deck formatted as under proposal. Give that to classmates here and invite everybody's advisors to attend as well. That's the perfect dry run at right about the perfect time to get it in front of your graduate committee, which everybody needs to graduate. Convince everybody that the project you have is worth it. It's ethical, it's not gonna let anybody in jail. And it's gonna be effective in accomplishing what you are asking it to accomplish. Cool. So that's kind of the thing. Our student learning outcomes are listed after that. What I'm saying. No required single textbook for this class because everyone's probably different. We can use recommended possibilities on, textbooks. Those are again all optional, depending on how geospatial or qualitative or quantitative, or any blend or combination of the above, your particular project is. Really get those or any others. You end up getting a different book like how to write your thesis and you really like it. Let us know so I can add it to the list and pass the torch forward to the next group of folks coming in like, how the hell will we do this? So that'd be very helpful, but nothing's required. So spend money that you don't have on textbooks for me. Let's see. For grading, the research proposal is 2/5 of your whole grade. And we're gonna break that out into a whole bunch of smaller things that are not as stressful and not as, really understood typically at this stage in your careers. So it's gonna be basically some small chunk of it weekly or even, bi-weekly over class year, semi-weekly, excuse me. And the formatting of it in particular, like whatever citation style you need, or particular what citation style your advisor is most comfortable with. Want to irritate your advisor by using Turabian when they're looking for American Psychological Association or whatever. Pick whatever citation style you want. The graduate school though does have very specific formatting requirements. Constantly what they want. But they do have really specific formatting requirements, and in the process of updating this for this semester right now, I'll upload the updated version to our course website. The previous semester's version is already up there. To the extent that you can, that we can as a class, save you from decision fatigue and reinventing the wheel fatigue on stuff like, do I put my problem statement at the beginning of my interview or at the end of it? But right after the justification section, is that really my intro chapter or interview, or maybe I guess I could put justification methods. All of that stuff is a solved problem. It's really pretty standard things. Nothing surprising here. Want to save your capacity for making decisions about your project for the project, not for reporting out. Okay, so please, by all means, however you need to adapt or ingest or use thesis template, and treating the proposal as the first 3 chapters, just write the results, discussion, conclusions, appendices, paste it into the proposal, rename the file thesis from the proposal. You're good. We don't want you guys to rewrite anything ever. Okay. So when you write your introduction, your methods, well, is genuinely a resave the file as your thesis and the other chapters. And that's it. Maybe one light editing pass to read through it and add 1 or 2 interesting new citations that have come out since you wrote your proposal and while you were reading your results, whatever. Okay, so this is very much designed not to fatigue you, because your transition, your ability to think, is your finite and precious and very expensive to import your campus and have you here for a couple of years, right? Support an entire human being, train them up and all that. Like, that's a big lift for everybody involved. So we want to make sure that you are focused on your mission and chunk it out as this grade for that. Next thing is going to be to do a couple of just very friendly critiques of any kind of science communication across campus anytime this semester. It could be online science communication thing. A TED Talk is a little bit thin on science communications anyway. But anything where there's an invited speaker coming to campus, they're talking about their work, or if another graduate student outside of your department is presenting their thesis. You have one forestry yesterday. Want to catch two of those throughout the semester and kind of post-mortem for yourself, what professional development, what that person did well, what they could have done, or maybe what you would have done differently. And after even the first couple of those, you'll start to see some things that really resonate with you and some things that really don't work. Very, very valuable information. People who are very, very good at collecting data or analyzing things, spatially or statistically or qualitatively with coding and theming, citation and so forth. That has nothing to do with how good or untrained they are so far on science communication. So they want to surrogate, want to learn from other people's successes and mistakes. And seeing at least two of those on campus and looking right up for those is going to be another big assignment. The next 20% is going to be your thesis proposal defense assignment. So 20% of the class in about 15 minutes. And be a very friendly audience for you, unless you ask us on purpose. You will be kind of an obnoxious audience, so you can practice out to run the room when it's a little cold. That's a useful skill. And my PhD advisor, my supervision tech, was interviewing for a tenure track practitioner. Gave his research seminar, an hour-long thing. These are the projects I've done recently. These are my research partners. This is kind of the scale of the funding that I'm looking to bring in. The journals that I publish in, research seminar. Have an extended interview chunk for Professor. When we finished that, I said, so we have a couple minutes for questions. I'd be happy to hear anything you guys have. One of the old part professors in the back, leaned back, crossed his arms and said, this is bullshit, one end to the other. Why should we believe any of this? That's a serious question. Bring the guys here. Verbatim. So Steve, my advisor, had to take that seemingly hostile question. Like I was actually very impressed. We wanted this with my advisor in the hot seat for a minute to see how we handle the questions. And mine have a job with the rest of the stream. Point is that, especially at conferences, audiences can give you some pretty tough questions. So that's an option for you. Your final presentation at the end of the semester here is only an option. You're just fine with a very audience. We have a couple other smaller assignments like minutes and geography. Get to those as we get to the middle of the semester. It's all work together. That's 20% great. So that totals up to 100%. And that's the main thing. Don't plagiarize work. Cite everything. When in doubt, cite it out. If you have missing late work, technically I'm supposed to have a policy to like dock you here at this point. You're 25% of the maximum grade per day. But to be quite honest, this is a graduate class with all adults. If you're slammed right now, like you have crazy assignments for your staff class that you're taking right now, or you're prepping night and day for a conference or a field season that you're going out to and just can't get to some of this fast, that's fine. Just let me know. Say, hey, Park, I'm overloaded right now. Not forgetting about this, chunk of the piece of proposal template. I know that's due tomorrow. I'm not going to get to it. That's fine. Good to go. That's all I need to know. If I don't have any signals from you, that's when I start to get worried because I'm behind in the right classes. It's not great. If you have any religious holidays or anything, that's totally cool. It's part of what makes living on a campus exciting. So yeah, just let me know in advance of that. You're good to go. If for some reason you have like a major life event, a health thing or a family thing, and not able to practice this semester, we can just lead the class, and I'll just have a conversation on so how much time you need, what do you need for me to finish out classes for. So Okay. What's good? Technical integrity is pretty straightforward. The use of artificial intelligence. Should talk about that. So, what a strange and exciting and terrifying time we're in. Claude and Rock and Gemini, ChatGPT are doubling in intelligence. Out of the 8 9 months. So that's genuinely super by the end of the year if that relationship holds. Extrapolation is a messy and ridiculous statistical procedure. So, we'll see what the curve actually lands. But as it stands right now, it's pretty okay at certain text processing kinds of things. It's a pretty good editor. It's a pretty awful writer. And the effect on your cognition is genuinely concerning. And to offload the learning and the thinking of the reasoning that you are here to develop onto a chatbot, wasting everybody's time, especially yours. So you are absolutely free to use large language model AI into this class. Just identify that. And again, strongly encourage you to use it as an editor or a sounding board, not as kind of copywriter. Don't do that. Big messes like that. So I use Claude to help draft and edit this syllabus, full disclosure. It's fine, like syllabus, whatever. I consider it a software tool, just like SAS or ARC or in vivo for qualitative stuff. For SPSS, it's just another tool. Use it, cite its use, and be aware of the trade-offs of it, just like another tool. Okay. Also, there is the ethical concern of the impact of data centers on like everything. So, that's not good or evil. It is simply aware of the cost of trade-offs. If you would like to use a large language model as an assistant tool or with note taking or transcription in this class, totally fine. After walking through setting up a local large language model on your laptop, you can run at something like 1/1000 for the frontier model, about 50 watts instead of 50 kilowatts. So 40 to 50 microwave oven running all at once are what it takes to generate chat outputs for these frontier models. Want to be honestly on top of it. But local versions are available on the market. If you have any sort of extreme closure or severe weather or large scale emergency like on-campus shooter, deal with that as it comes. And once a student PhD student at Virginia Tech, that match can happen. That's my always go. Figure it out, we'll get through it. You get a message from the building emergency response team or SAE public safety. They're going to roll in very hot on anything like that. Try to get the word out quickly to everybody, obviously. You may see that text message faster than I do if I'm like driving faster and stuff like that. So let me know if anything comes up. We'll deal with that. If you would prefer to be addressed by a nickname or a chosen name, or pronouns, that's fine, let me know. And are absolutely festooned semester with literally pages of new resources for you. Being a grad student is stressful for a lot of grad students. Not everybody necessarily automatically thrives in grad school. That's okay, that's pretty normal. So use all of these resources. Counseling, mental health, if you're having trouble, help, especially when grad students diving in and getting food or thinking campus. Speak up. We can help you if we know there's a lot of effect. All of that communication is always confidential. very much protected by law. So, my student needs, whatever those might be in terms of studying or coursework or other coursework, health and fitness, medical, whatever. Seek out resources that you need. They're there for you. Please. We'll talk also about some soft skills in terms of managing some of the mental, physical, social, spiritual, well-being aspects of grad student, like how to pick good folks for your graduate study and avoid genuinely toxic people. Like that's one of the topics for that class session. So that's most of the boilerplate stuff on the syllabus. If you have any questions about that so far, it's all pretty standard. If not, let's give sort of a quick survey across the course schedule in the format of customizing for what you guys actually need individually to get across the finish line with your proposals and then later with your theses and journal of masters. So basic boilerplate stuff, week one, pretty straightforward. Definitely need to talk about the ethics research. Correlation, causality, this is more along the lines of things that are true across pretty much every thesis or dissertation. Once we get into sampling, you start to get into domain and discipline specific things. So sampling other than non-probability sampling is very closely and explicitly tied to qualitative or quantitative research context. So it sounds like you're doing reviews with economists.
Yeah, it's a lot of qualitative analysis.
Okay, got it. And we're coordinating the FFA events, which is a huge thing. You're gonna need some, like, you're gonna be able to go anywhere you want to in this thing, sure. Having everybody work close to their job. What is your, to what extent do you have your research project defined as a qualitative quantitative? Not sure yet.
Don't know yet. We're still fleshing out like an idea. So we haven't even like gotten a direct idea down. We've just had the ideas so far.
So that might be quantitative. You know, Howard, there, you met Howard yet?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He said,
I don't always remember his first name, so, but I had classes with him.
yeah, okay. I helped him write his dissertation with a bunch of data mining across the FFA organization and stuff like that, and then analyze all that. So it could be a quantitative project for you.
Well, I know the last grad student is just here. She works as an academic advisor now. She said I get camp, which we have every summer, and then she like does surveys from all the students like before and after. And then she like take all the data from the surveys to see how camp went, and that was really cool.
Okay. Surveys would be generally quantitative, maybe mixing in some open into qualitative type stuff. So put a question mark on quantitative now to you. Site selection is also like population selection for qualitative type projects. So yes, talk about that. Question mark on survey research view. Question view, qualitative, quantitative, how far are you in the research design process?
Probably about halfway. I think I have a decent idea what I want my question. I just got to kind of make it, I think, feasible about skipper about. It's probably gonna be qualitative.
Deal. In that case, survey research is not so much in there unless things are great. Unobtrusive and non-reactive research, where research participants don't understand the true thrust of the project, or even if they are doing research or not. There are specific narrow cases where that's appropriate and safe for everybody involved. Whole lot of oversight and safety checks involved. Does anybody think about doing interactive or interest research? Everything from literally sitting in a line and watching people walk by a trail and recording their behaviors to, giving them a questionnaire about one thing, but they're really running into actually something else that you're watching the byline or something. So not so much for this Mr. Graphic. Data collection, field logistics, safety, human nature, backups, emergencies, definitely everybody. Descriptive statistics, maybe, geospatial analysis, anybody cracking open GIS and big one?
I have aspirations of maybe implementing JS or R to my research project, but I'm not entirely sure. I gotta talk to Dr. Rockenline about it.
That's good. Cool. Let's see. And that gets us to the end of October to into November, by which point we are really trying to haul ass to get anything tied up that we need to, which is content, if that sort of feels later spills over. So that you guys can have some time in November, which is a really short month. Want to aim for those presentations. To be really in November, so that we have like 1 week between November and December when exams start to catch up on anything we need to. Good. The rest of the syllabus is just an example, like it doesn't have to be this formal, right? Still enjoy some seminar across campus. You can pick a topic area that you know nothing about, so you can focus a little bit more on the quality of the communication instead of what they are talking about. Going back after how I talked about it. So walk through the annotated bibliography. That's our syllabus. So that is all of that stuff. Any questions, concerns, or about clarifications, inputs, feedbacks, comments, reviews? In that case, it's in a couple of minutes early and pick it up with a more crunchy walkthrough of a super exciting thesis template file, just so, and then hopefully demystifying the process for everybody. And if I can do it, I breathe through my mouth and I use crayons. Like you guys can do it. Walk on the this semester and hopefully take all this thing out that we can. I'm around for questions typically after each class. I don't have anything immediately after this, so usually just wrapping up the recording, stick stuff online, that sort of thing. So
Is there anything you'd recommend us for away by Thursday, or are we just walking into Thursday?
mostly just walking in on Thursday for now. Yeah. We'll have plenty of stuff to wade through, but yeah, today is enough to just put everything on the ground and take it in the right direction. Question? Anything else? All right, enjoy your day. Thanks for jumping on class with us.
You know, some days I'm gonna be gone already.
Okay.
At the beginning of September.
Cool.